Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most mind-bending ideas I've come across in a long time, the Zaibatsu of Zero. We're talking about a corporation whose entire business model is built on, well, nothing. It's a wild ride, so let's get right into it.
So let me just ask you this. What if a company could actually sell you nothing? And I don't mean a useless product. I mean literal, tangible absence. Think about our world for a second. Every click, every photo, every dumb comment you made online 10 years ago, it's all archived somewhere, forever. The idea of being able to truly, completely erase something, that's not just a service, it's a deep, deep desire. And that's exactly where this whole story kicks off.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by trying to figure out what this corporation made of gaps even is. Then we'll get into its core product, this wild concept called unhappening. From there, we'll explore how this is even possible, which takes us into the very mechanics of reality and, believe it or not, a whole philosophy of nothing. And finally, we'll look at the bigger picture, the battle for what's actually real.
All right, first up, let's try to wrap our heads around a corporation that's literally made of gaps. You know, usually when you're looking into some shadowy organization, you're hunting for clues. With Zero, the clues themselves just seem to evaporate. And that's the central paradox of Zero. It's just bizarre. Normally, a trail goes cold, right? But when you investigate Zero, the trail seems to go backward. The more you dig, the less information there is, the less certain everything becomes. Zero literally exists in the vacuum created by the lack of information about it. It's built from the very holes in the data.
I love this analogy because it's perfect. Think about a painting. The empty space around the subject is what gives it shape, what makes it stand out. Zero has somehow managed to be the negative space. It's not a thing in the world's data. It's the shape of the void left behind by the data. Just incredible.
So, if the company is made of negative space, what on earth does it sell? Well, their product is something they call unhappening. And trust me, this is way, way bigger than just hitting the delete button.
And this right here is the absolute key to understanding everything. Deletion, that's just a transaction. It removes a file, but it always leaves a ghost, a trace, a digital scar that says something was here. Unhappening, though, is on another level. It makes something architecturally absent. It doesn't just erase the record, it changes reality so that the event never produced a record to begin with. It makes it so it literally wasn't.
This quote from a neuroscientist in the source material really paints a vivid picture. Imagine you could scan the brain of someone who had a memory unhappened. You wouldn't find a blank spot or a damaged neuron. No, you'd see a brain that looks perfectly whole, as if that room, that memory, was never even built. The architecture itself is different.
So, why would anyone want this? What's the human driver here? It all comes down to one word: release. This isn't about running away from your past, it's about cutting the cord. In a world that remembers everything for you, their clients are desperate to sever the thread that ties them to a recorded moment, an old identity. It's about letting go of the weight of the permanent record.
Okay, so this brings us to the giant question looming over all of this. How is any of this even possible? And the answer is not what you think. We are not talking about some super advanced AI or quantum hacking. This is something else entirely.
And this is the jump you have to make to really get Zero. They're not playing with data. They're not hacking into servers. They are operating on the very fabric of reality that creates the data in the first place. It's a process that works on a level way more fundamental than technology.
All right, so here's the theory of how it works. There's this tiny, almost non-existent sliver of time between an event happening and that event getting turned into a record, whether that's a neuron firing in your brain or a bit of data on a server. Zero's method operates in that tiny gap. They don't destroy the record, they intervene in the translation process so the experience never leaves an information signature that can be recorded at all. So, if it's not technology, then what is it? Well, get this. The entire operation is built on a very formal, very complex philosophy, a literal taxonomy of absence.
Yeah, you heard me right. This isn't some vague, new age concept. Zero has a rigorous, almost scientific framework for understanding absence. They've actually broken down the concept of nothing into 4 distinct categories. This is their playbook for manipulating reality.
So let's run through them real quick. First, you have originary nothing. That's the pure potential before anything even exists. Then there's residual nothing. That's the shaped hole a thing leaves when it's gone, like the outline of a missing object. Third is relational nothing, which is basically the space between things that allows them to be separate things. And last, you have productive nothing, the blank page, the empty stage, the silence that makes new things possible.
And this is where it all comes together. A single act of unhappening uses all four types. It takes an event and returns it to pure potential. That's originary. It leaves a perfectly shaped absence. That's residual. It subtly adjusts the space around that absence. That's relational. And in doing so, it creates a blank space for something new to happen. And that's productive nothing. It's not destruction, it's a creative act.
Right when you think you finally got your head around it, the story just blows wide open. Turns out, Zero isn't the only player in this game, and the stakes are about to get a whole lot higher.
I mean, it was bound to happen, right? If you discover a fundamental force of the universe, someone else will too. But here's the twist. What if they don't want to subtract from reality? What if they want to add to it?
And that brings us to plenum. They are the mirror image of Zero, the polar opposite. Where Zero practices the art of subtraction, plenum has mastered the art of addition. Zero sells absence, plenum sells presence. They don't erase reality, they construct it. They can build you a whole new identity, a new past, from scratch.
And this line from a representative of plenum just nails it. You subtract, we add, but the space we work in is the same space. They are two sides of the same coin, operating on the same fundamental boundary of reality, locked in this invisible war over what is and isn't real.
And you gotta understand, this is the ultimate form of power. It's not about controlling what happens. It's about controlling the very preconditions that allow things to happen at all. The source material talks about a political zero, an entity that could unhappen a political scandal before it even breaks. That's a level of control that is absolutely terrifying because it's completely untraceable. But here's the thing. From Zero's point of view, they're not the bad guys. They see themselves as gardeners of the real. They look at our world, choked with the weeds of data, of permanent records, and they see their work as pruning, clearing the ground. They believe that by creating this productive nothing, they're making space for something new, something real to finally grow.
So that leaves us with this one last big question. In our world, a world that is obsessed with recording every single second, what is the actual value of being forgotten? Is it the ultimate freedom we've been dreaming of? Or is it a dangerous power that dissolves who we are? The existence of something like Zero forces us to really think about that. Thanks so much for tuning in.